For several days, Armo's employees are protesting against the attack of certain state structures against its refineries in Fier and Ballsh. If for tax investigation employees these actions are the enforcement of a blind order without documentation, for 3,000 families whose relatives are employed there, they are the negation of their living. Work in Fier and Ballsh refineries continues to be blocked through a verbal and illegitimate order. These arbitrary actions are not supported in the law of tax procedures, neither in the warrant of service that is presented as the only documentation justifying the abusiveness of these malevolent segments. But what is Armo and which are its refineries that process oil and its byproducts? Since its privatization nearly 5 years ago, Armo company includes the refineries of Ballsh that deal mainly in oil processing, as well as that of Fier that produces its byproducts, mainly combustible materials such as solar oil and bitumen. Practically, the attacks against Armo company have started since the moment it was privatized by Tachi Oil Group nearly 5 years ago. Apart from the highest bid among bidders, the winning company inherited not only an extremely run-down technology, but even the debts that Armo has to other subjects. The refinery was in a run-down state technically. In total amortization of units, total amortization of the auxiliary sector did not meet technical conditions and standards for products, as well as for atmospheric and water discharges of industrial waters. Immediately after privatization, the new owner has invested in these sectors. First of all, physical rehabilitation of technological units to enable work for a longer and safer time cycle. Thus, despite the fact that the new owner found it in such a technical state, he invested for the production of gas oil with sulfur content under 10 ppm in record time. In 2005, Armo was to be privatized, and at the value of $50 million, it is a failed privatization. On the other hand, in 2008, the president of the company, Reza Tachi, offered 130 million euros, 3 times the value of 2005, and apart from this, Armo has been unjustly billed for all fines and obligations that the state-run Armo had, amounting to $70 million by calculating all the obligations that state-run Armo had to CEZ, to Alpetrol, to the tax office, and unjustly before the privatization, the welfare amnesty was unjustly billed to Armo. Only welfare, which is not an obligation of Armo, amounts to $15 million, which the state unjustly billed to Armo. Taking into account 130 million euros, the amount of Armo's privatization, 3 times the asking bid, adding $70 million of late obligations that the state-run Armo billed to Armo at the moment it was privatized by Reza Tachi, they amount to $220 million. Adding $100 million of fines during these 4 years, Armo today amounts to $320 million. But the state did not cease its behind-the-back attacks on Armo. During all these years, its structures have fined Armo company with nearly $100 million, of which $60 million only in the last months. All these penalties are done without cause and arbitrarily. Meanwhile, during all the privatization time, a custom duty of 10% was imposed on the company for crude imported oil. The damaging scenario continued with the excise for solar oil and gas at the amount it equaled its excise with gas oil, a unique case in the world.
Në nëntor të vitit 2008, ne kemi qenë pjesë e privatizimit.
In November 2008, we have been part of the privatization and we have entered the premises of Fier's factory and in the factory of deep processing of oil. It was at this moment that there were changes made in the tax and fiscal legislation of the Republic of Albania. Since the beginning of 2009, we have faced an increase in basic taxes. The excise of solar oil, the excise of coal, and this action has continued until 2012 at a 200% value for products produced in the factory of deep processing of oil. There was no tax increase before 2008. After 2008, changes in the value of taxes and the frequency of these changes have been less than 3 months. We have faced a customs import tax that does not allow us to import the raw product we use for production. This way, we have no other alternative to import oil from abroad, but are forced to cooperate with oil extraction companies in Albania.
Që të importojmë naftë nga jashtë, por jemi të detyruar të bashkëpunojmë me kompanitë naftë nxjerrëse në Shqipëri. Para privatizimit, akciza solarit ka qenë 17 lekë për kilogram.
Before privatization, the solar oil excise were 70 lakhs per kilogram. A year and a half later, it was increased to 37 lakhs per kilogram. And the solar oil that amounts to 40% of the product in both refineries in Fier and Ballsh, we are currently selling it under the cost since the moment of the changes made in the law. After the increase of the solar oil excise, refineries are made non-rentable. Apart from this, on October 1st, 2012, a bill was enacted without consulting Armo when it directly affects Armo. It is the law for the payment of the excise of internal consumption. It means that every amount of combustible product we produce that we consume for the production of products that should be paid in advance. At the end of the month, the whole amount of the excise should be paid and the state reimburses it. In March 2013, we have proof, you can even ask in the customs office in Fier, we have paid all the solar oil excise for March 3 million new lakhs. And not only was this amount not reimbursed, but we were further fined. Every month they make inspections and penalize us for internal consumption. We meet our legal obligations of advanced payment and there has been no reimbursement. We have difficulties selling products even at the moment we make export sales, because we currently are at $10 million reimbursed VAT from the state. The state wants from us, we have obligations, and the state wants to collect them in taxes. And this credit is in taxes, $10 million, and the state has not yet reimbursed it to us. If there is cooperation and they want to find a solution, the solution is there. On one hand, they request obligations and do not allow us to work, and on the other, they do not give us our rights.
Jo nga një anë na kërkojnë detyrime dhe nuk na lënë të punojmë, dhe nga ana tjetër ato të drejta që neve na takojnë nuk na i japin.
Despite everything, the executives of the refinery in Ballsh state that during these 5 years they have worked only 11 months, but employees have been paid in full. Even despite these difficulties, Taci Oil Group has taken loans to be correct with its employees, something that is stated even by its employees. The fines imposed to the company amount to $100 million, and only in the last months the fines amount to $60 million. In 5 years, the refinery in Fier and in Ballsh have worked only 11 months. You can calculate for yourself how these salaries have been paid. And the president has taken loans to pay and be correct with the employees. Since 2008, there have been no dismissals in the refineries in Fier and Ballsh. We have employed others, and everyone has been part of the company.
Në rafinerinë e Fier dhe rafinerinë në Ballshit nuk është bërë asnjë shkurtim i vende pune. Për mos thënë që janë marrë njerëz shtesë dhe çdo njeri ka qenë pjesë e kësaj kompanie. Nga kjo situatë nuk përfiton asnjë njeri.
No one benefits from this situation, neither the Albanian state, because it cannot collect the taxes it should from the factory of the deep processing of oil. It cannot collect excise obligations because there are no products. It's a lost profit to the Albanian state, it's a lost profit to businessmen whom we cooperate with. It's a lost profit to employees who have difficulties facing the economic difficulties of the company, and it's a lost profit to Armo because in 4 years and 7 months we have worked only 11 months with minimal capacity. The processing of raw oil has been minimal. State structures employees that are carrying out orders are playing the strongman against a national asset. The aim to forcibly extort and get the shares of this indisputable asset of the oil industry in Albania without paying anything is the only law known to those who block such a legal activity. Customs and tax inspections during these 4 years and 7 months, their frequency has been every other month. Inspection, investigation of balances and inventories, and after every inspection there were charges in legislation, thus not giving us time to adapt, not giving us time to prepare for changes, but every tax inspection, every customs inspection came with legal changes. And after every inspection we have received administrative measures. Be them just or unjust, we have addressed institutions to clarify our position and did not receive a reply. The obligation is huge, but only in the last months we have been fined with $60 million for the factory of the deep processing of oil, for the factory of oil processing in Fier, when we know that in 2013 the factory of deep processing of oil has worked only 28 days. This is the 7th month of the year, and we have worked only 28 days. In total, Armo in 4 years and 7 months has worked only 11 months due to administrative pressure in legislation and of certain structures of the Albanian state not to allow this industry to work. In principle, we should say that this is the only sector that can maintain Albania. I have said it often, not only today, that Albania imports 600,000 tons of oil and exports 1 million tons. What does this mean? Due to this maneuver, which is a criminal act, we lose about $500 million. $500 million are the overall pensions in Albania. In fact, this is the most serious problem that our country is facing. It is the only source which lies in the hands of an Albanian rich man who, despite of his nature, is a businessman who leaves his money inside the state. A state, even when they caught Al Capone, caught him with a simple employee. There is no need for such pressures. Tax officials have 10 days here and they do not allow tanks to leave the premises. There is no official documentation. How do you comment it? It does not interest me because I have no such information, but I judge by a simple journalism principle. When the state undertakes legal acts, it can destroy you even with a simple employee that might come to work without a tie. It can take up your office and say, "I am the state, bring me the balance sheets." At the moment the state undertakes such pressures, it means that the one we call Prime Minister is not the first of the country and makes such tomfooleries, because these forms, even though at first sight they have a legal act, their background is illegal. What does it mean? Once again, a strong state only with one representative, because the state does not block you with keys and chains. It blocks you with a simple act. They present you that it is closed deal. The fact that they have been staying here for 10 days means that this is not the state but understate structures more powerful than the state. And I hope for a solution, because it's not only the fate of 1,000, 2,000 or 3,000 employees at stake here, but here at this factory and in that of Ballsh is the destiny of all Albania. Those who analyze this case should understand that this story does not damage only the employees in Ballsh, but all Albanians, because they lose $500 million. But the problem with state structures is now only the relation with the company. Without asking and hearing our experts, by blocking the amount of solar oil or bitumen, the state structures risk a massive explosion that surpasses Gërdec from its intensity. Sudden shutdowns or sales blocking, these bring emergency shutdown as failures that bring great risks not only for fires and explosions, because these are chemical factories and the probability of accidents is very high. You should be attentive at all times.
Këtu probabiliteti për aksidente në punë janë çdo sekond, çdo minutë, tu non-stop duhet të jesh I vëmendshëm.
Një ndalesë shutdown I plot I menjëhershëm.
A full sudden shutdown is a danger to people who work with these equipments, but also for equipments themselves, because we may have coaxification of furnace pipes, pipe jams, blocking of machines, of pumps, of compressors. These blockings can cause an increase in pressure and there can be explosions, fissures. This way they would endanger the life of employees, the destruction of property and technological units, up to the full destruction of a technological unit.
Deri në mos ekzistencën shumë serioze, deri në mos ekzistencën e një reparti të tërë teknologjik.
Every day that state blockers hinder the distribution of bitumen or solar oil brings about the endangerment of residents who live nearby, who should be evacuated urgently because the aftermath can be catastrophic. It should be intervened now because only state structures will be held accountable.
Aktualisht me privatizimin e rafinerisë Fierit, gjendja teknike e uzinës ka qenë optimale dhe uzina ka qenë në aftë.
Currently, with the privatization of the factory in Fier, the technical condition of the factory has been optimal and it was capable to produce at full capacity. Practically, we have not produced even for 3 months in a year. This brings two impacts: problems of not being supplied frequently by suppliers due to finance problems or others, as mentioned before, such as financial obstacles. First of all, the factory has not been used at full capacity. It has worked at minimal capacities and the cost of production has increased maximally.
Maksimal.
Procesi teknologjik I lëshimit dhe ndalimit të rafinerisë është një proces I gjatë.
The technological process of powering and shutting down the refinery is a long one, made step by step, unit by unit, and if there is a sudden shutdown, it is called a failure shutdown, which would bring of course serious damage in all refineries, not only in Fier and Ballsh, but in all refineries throughout the world. When this comes from state structures that know the damages caused to the refinery by such a sudden shutdown, even in cases where there are data that refineries should be blocked, it is done after a warning in order for the personnel to take measures not only to protect the lives of employees, but also to protect equipment during the shutdown process. Even though some amateur or malevolent voices who work through respective screens want to link the attack on Armo and Taci Oil with the failure to privatize Alpetrol, the truth is that these cases have no connection. Armo has been attacked since its privatization until this day. Even though the finance minister stated some time ago that Armo has no debt to the state, today structures dependent on the ministry, brutally without legal reference and through repression, are attempting to rob the shares of the company.
Kam iden, pikërisht nga policia tatimore, se në mbrapa sken mund të ketë forcat e errta.
I think due to the tax administration police, the dark forces can be on the background of all these forces that are part of the state, some understates, some criminal structures that, seeing that this is the greatest national wealth, they think that in this mess they can take their share. This is a story that goes over the state. I don't need to write anything because I can clearly see tax office employees there. Under a legal appearance, they are making an illegal act. When the state demonstrates an act of force, force can be used by a bandit, not by the state. The state does not need it. This is the reason it has the army, the police, documentation. I think that this issue solved in full transparency would require, it would be weird to mention a fact. Franjo Tudjman in the Croatian war had contact with his businessmen. I would be very curious if the Prime Minister of Albania has direct contact with the owner of this refinery. Direct contact. Direct contact means that those capitalists who have all the capital for employees, which is not paid by the state, they should be in direct contact with the state. I don't know. We should ask Rezart. Does the one who calls himself the Prime Minister of Albania call him on the phone? Because he should call him every day. I think they may be talking on the phone now. I don't know. This is the logic. The greatest wealth of Albania cannot be managed by some tax administration vans or by those who understand that the Prime Minister is now gone. They try to extort the last part that has remained to the state of Albania. The tax administration should come here and unblock the factory in order for it to work. We all work in this factory. We will continue to protest until the end, until a solution is given to this tax issue. They are taking our hard work. We will continue to protest until the end, until a solution is given to this tax issue. We are employed here and the factory is in the ownership of Rezart Taci. Let the factory work. Many families are fed by this factory. Rezart Taci is with us, we are with him. Rezart Taci's company is inalienable. They should not take our oil. They should let us work. I appeal to the government to let us work for the future of our children, for the future of our children, because they are the perspective of this country. This is my plea to the government. Remove your structures. Let us work, because we are innocent. We have to feed our families. We are working and living only for our children, who are the future of the nation. For our money we should work, work should continue. My boy wants to eat. Where will he eat? Where will I find the money if I don't work? I came here today in shorts as my son. I have worked here since I was 16. Where will I feed my children? Where will I feed my boy? Where will he eat if I don't provide for him? This is our means. This factory is our means. It is providing for us. It has raised us. The cavalry of attacks received by the sole company of this type in Albania under the belt and sometimes directly has accompanied its existence from the privatization day. Despite everything, every day that passes, together with every illegal anti-business and anti-human action, shows only greed and weakness, as well as a vision that, despite embellishments, remains within the frame of short-sightedness. History has shown that such attempts only damage those who initiate or lead them. History will respond with indifference to all those who want to play God.